Hello, AAA Gamer here. Oh, I'm sorry for laughing, but... Oh, God, Nintendo. You guys have trolled us yet again. Now, before getting into this video, I do want to point out that yes, there will be spoilers for those who don't want to know the characters' names, races, how they'll work in Breath of the Wild, you know, things like that. There might even be what you could consider timeline spoilers. I'm going to talk about Aonuma interviews over the last week where he has hinted at where it takes place in the timeline. I'm going to talk about the Famitsu scans, which talks more about the characters, their personalities, their names, what race they are, things like that. Now, with that out of the way, I want to talk about Falco first, or his real name, which is Rebel according to translations of the scan, who is a member of, now get this, the Rito tribe, which live in the skies of Hyrule. He is spotted wearing the same blue scarf as the other characters, and each of them also wield different weapons. That much is a given. But the key word there is Rito. Now, yes, a lot of people said he could be a Rito. A lot of people have said he can't be because the Rito aren't this bird-like. They have just the beaks and the wings, and this guy is full-on bird. Looks a lot like Falco from Star Fox, which is why people have been calling him Falco. Now, here's the thing. I have stated time and time again that this game cannot be on the adult timeline, or at least that's my theory. And this guy right here has people jumping on that bandwagon all over again. But here is where Nintendo have trolled us. The Zora evolved into the Rito in Wind Waker. Normally that would mean the Zora and the Rito cannot exist at the same time, but clearly here they are. Obviously this is a different kind of Rito as I already described. So that would mean one of two things. Either this Rito evolved from different Zoras to the ones Wind Waker's Rito evolved from, or Nintendo are just using the name Rito for whatever bird creatures they come up with. Now, the evolution thing is a possibility. The Zora in the Downfall timeline are green monsters. This has been said to be two different types of Zora. Ocean Zora being the friends we know, River Zora being the monsters, you know, things like that. So evolving from a different tribe of Zora is a possibility. But I'm banking on the latter option. Nintendo are just using the Rito name. This also disproves something I said in my previous video. The dark-skinned girl from the previous trailer, not in the Famitsu scans by the way, could very well be a Garuda. I said the eyes were different than a normal Garuda, so she's not one, but if the bird guy is a Rito, this girl could very well be a Garuda. I'm also going to quickly talk about one of the timeline possibilities. One of the theories floating around is a timeline convergence, and I mentioned that in my rant that I don't think it's possible. HMK has already touched on it. No, he didn't pay me, yada yada yada. If you want to know more, look at my rant on the timeline being bullshit. But the convergence theory is there, and with Zora and Rito in Breath of the Wild, people are jumping on that once again. But remember people, this is Nintendo, this is The Legend of Zelda, this is a game series where they will use the same characters, races and whatnot as many times as they choose because they can. Look at Beetle, he's pretty much confirmed to be in the game, and he's in Skyward Sword and all three adult timeline games, Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. Tingle as well was in Majora's Mask and Wind Waker on two different timelines. Hell, I've already said the Zora. They originally made the Zoras enemies, and then Ocarina of Time and onwards the Zora were allies, and their quick fix was to change the lore, change the Downfall timeline, whatever they changed, to reflect this by saying they are two different tribes of Zora. Who's to say they can't do the same thing here with the Rito? Who's to say they won't? But enough about all that. I want to move on to some of the other characters. Next up, we have Darkhel, as it's translated literally, or Darkhel. Who knows what the English name will be? Well, we'll find out when the game launches. Darkhel is a Goron warrior who lives in the mountains of Hyrule. He's normally calm, but when entering battles, he changes into a very brave warrior that screams loudly while sweeping away enemies. Now his description sounds interesting. And not just the description. Aonuma said in an interview with IGN recently that the new allies work in mysterious ways. Shimmers? Yeah, well, both the description and what Aonuma says makes me think that maybe these allies will accompany Link on his journey. We did see in the Switch presentation trailer the Garuda girl was with Link at a temple or some building of some sort. Maybe these allies go with Link to certain places, will fight enemies, and all that stuff. Now there's also the Zora girl who got a description and name. Her name is Mifa, and she's a Zora girl who lives in Hyrule, has a special power that no other Zoras have, but perhaps due to that she's somewhat introverted and doesn't talk much. Famitsu wonders how she will use the spear she's wielding. So there's some interesting things to point out there. If the people behind the magazine, behind the description, are curious on how she'll use the spear, it has me very curious indeed, and I am looking forward to finding out when we get to play the game. But there's also this power. It says this power makes her shy and introverted. What exactly is this power? And how can it have such an effect on her personality? Finally, for the Famitsu scans, there's also a description for Zelda. Now this is pretty basic stuff, like Zelda is the princess of the destroyed Hyrule Kingdom, she's a wise and curious girl, but there is an interesting point here. She goes to investigate ancient ruins scattered around the world, and also has a deep complexity. That final part, the deep complexity, is probably something that will be explored within the game, something that helps make the story bigger, better, all that stuff. But it's the investigate ancient ruins part that has me intrigued. But enough about the Famitsu scans. I feel like I'm describing each one. You can all check that out for yourself. It's easy to find, not difficult at all. I did mention at the start of the video that I also wanted to talk about the other troll move that Nintendo did. Yes, there was another one. Now, a couple of days ago, excuse me. Now, a couple of days ago, Aonuma said in an interview, in a response to a question of where Breath of the Wild takes place on the timeline, that it's a question he cannot answer, as there is some elements in the game for players to discover themselves. But you have some clues, that being in the previous trailer there is a voice of the woman that we assume is Impa, that tells you the world you are in has suffered many battles against Ganon, and you can imagine roughly what period that is. Of course we can. As I've stated in my previous videos time and time again, the Downfall timeline has suffered 4, nearly 5 attacks from Ganon. Both the adult and child have only suffered 2. So, kind of feels like he's confirmed the Downfall timeline. And that's the big issue. If we take Aonuma's word for it, it's on the Downfall timeline. If we take the Famitsu scans into account, adult timeline or Convergence, although I disagree with that. There's also the recent Super Bowl ads. Yes, I'm aware about them. No, I'm not going to talk about them. Where they revealed the names of 2 bosses, Hinox and Molduga. Hinox is an enemy that has appeared only on the Downfall timeline so far, so that is another factor for the Downfall timeline. So basically there's factors for and against each timeline. The same as usual. I could not be fucked. I just wanted to say Nintendo have trolled us, and now if you'll excuse me, Fire Emblem Heroes is out now in Australia, and I want to go try that. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening to me ramble on, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a message on my email, Facebook or Twitter accounts found in the links below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and all that crap. See you later.